Hey guys, it's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. So here's another Amazon and Netflix recommendation. Today's date is April 22nd, 2018. The first film on Netflix currently that I really liked was Gringo, The Dangerous Life of John McAfee. This is a Showtime documentary. It came out in 2016. I probably watched it, I'm going to say about 8 months ago, but it is on Netflix now. I think it must have been on Netflix when I watched it, or perhaps even Amazon at that point. And it's pretty much about if you most likely know the last name McAfee. Um, it was one of the most prominent antiviruses back in, I would say, the early to mid 90s. So when I was a teenager, everyone had McAfee. That's all they talked about. John McAfee was the guy behind it. He eventually, I think, expanded and then sold the company off, becoming a multimillionaire. And then just getting in a lot of weird adventures. He relocated to Belize. He had police, raid his home, thinking he was a drug trafficker. At one point, they thought he was dead, and he like faked his death. There's all this like weird stuff about him, um, and it's just a strange story about a man who sort of, I guess, got money quickly and went off the deep end in a way. Is involved in a lot of sort of underhanded type of things that happened, and there's an air of mystery about him and what he did and what he's doing. It's a story about John McAfee. It's a great documentary. I think it's pretty interesting. It's funny. Um, on the Wikipedia here it says McAfee's describing the documentary as fiction, and four of his associates from Belize allege that the documentary's producers misled them about their motives and coerced them into filming the interviews. Maybe it is fiction. Maybe it's another thing where it's fake and it's someone putting on a story to make themselves sound more interesting. Fact or fiction, it's still interesting. It's an interesting watch. So I would recommend it to people who are into computers, or know who John McAfee is, or the old, McAfee antivirus and like documentaries. The second movie I'd like to mention, which I watched last night, is on Amazon Prime currently. It's called Adopted. It is a 2009 independent film starring Pauly Shore, and it's a mockumentary in the vein of Borat. So if you've seen Borat, which I think is a great, great film, very funny. Some of it's real, some of it isn't, but it's still funny. It's very similar to that. Pauly Shore is going on and on about how Madonna adopts kids from Africa, and Angelina Jolie adopts kids from Africa. Now he's going to do it because he wants to be a dad. And he goes to Africa and just says outlandish stuff and does funny things, tries to take children. He's a weird dude. He's like grabbing the kids and pinching them and hugging them and saying like, "Call me daddy." And you can tell some of the kids are a little like, "What the frig is going on?" But um, it's all, set up. A lot of it's done really well where you can't tell what's real and what isn't. Some of it isn't. I think some of it is him like interviewing the locals and talking to them and saying strange shit, and them kind of being off guard and put off by what he's saying or what he's doing. But it's still very funny. He goes to this Oprah Foundation at one point. He goes to some Nelson Mandela place. That's like a fundraising place at one point, and he just says and does crazy stuff. Um, there's his humor is really funny. He has this sort of like underlying like jokey jabs at racism, so that's really funny. Like at one point, after the movie's over, they show like a couple, I guess, cut scenes or behind the scenes footage, and one of the kids that he was supposedly adopting, he's not really adopting these kids. He like puts them on the floor and he's putting his hands behind his back. He's like, "You're under arrest. I'm not racially profiling you." And it just his humor is really funny. He's a pretty funny comedian. I enjoyed most of his kind of goofy humor in the '90s, and he fell off the map a little bit now in terms of film. And I would check it out. I think it's a really funny movie. If you like movies like Borat, with that sort of brash humor, which I do, check out Adopted with Pauly Shore. I don't think it's probably spoken about enough. Yeah, those are the two recommendations: Adopted with Pauly Shore and Gringo, the John McAfee. I keep going to say McAfee. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it. Friggin' Irish names. The John McAfee story, on Netflix. Let me know if you've seen these guys or if you're going to see these, what you think. Thanks, guys, for watching. It's Vampire Mike from Sega CD Universe. Be good.